Have you ever felt completely exhausted after talking to someone, as though your energy has been mysteriously drained? It's not just physical fatigue, it's that empty, restless feeling that leaves you unmotivated and even irritable. These moments aren't rare, and chances are you've encountered people who seem to sap your vitality without even trying. But who are they, and why do they have this effect on us? Take a moment to think about that one person in your life who always seems to turn every conversation into a complaint. For me, it was a guy I used to work with who, without fail, would find something to complain about every single day. Whether it was the noisy neighbor keeping him up at night, the impossible traffic on the way to work, or even how uncomfortable his desk chair felt, his grievances were endless. No matter how much I tried to steer the conversation towards something positive, he would drag it back to negativity. By the end of our chats, I felt emotionally drained, as if his complaints had seeped into my mood. Sound familiar? These types of interactions are more common than you might think, and they take a toll on our peace of mind. But here's the good news. With Stoic principles, you can learn to set boundaries and protect your energy from such encounters. In this video, we'll explore 6 types of energy-draining individuals and how you can reclaim your peace using actionable insights rooted in Stoic philosophy. Stick around. What you learn today might just transform how you approach relationships and challenges. So what about you? Have you ever encountered someone like my colleague? Share your story in the comments, and if you've found a great way to handle these situations, let us know. Your tips might help someone else reclaim their energy and peace of mind. Stay tuned. You're about to unlock powerful solutions for a more balanced, fulfilling life. 1. The chronic complainer. Some people have a way of turning every moment into a complaint. They focus on what's wrong, even when there's so much that's right. Their negativity is relentless, like a shadow that follows them everywhere. These chronic complainers often express dissatisfaction with nearly everything, whether it's the weather, their morning coffee, or the way the world seems to work against them. But here's the real challenge: they rarely offer solutions or show any willingness to improve their situation. What makes it worse is the contagious nature of their negativity. Before you realize it, their outlook has seeped into your thoughts, dragging your mood and energy down with it. Let's return to the story of my colleague. Every day, his stream of complaints felt like being caught in a never-ending rainstorm. He'd start with the little things, his loud neighbors, his stiff chair, and then build to bigger grievances. It wasn't just venting. It was an ongoing cycle of negativity that seemed to drain the energy out of everyone in the room. By mid-morning, I'd noticed the entire office's mood had shifted. Conversations felt heavier and less hopeful. His complaints didn't just weigh on him, they started to weigh on all of us. This is the insidious nature of chronic complainers. Their negativity spreads like a ripple, dragging down the energy and optimism of everyone in their circle. Stoicism reminds us that while we cannot control what others say or do, we have power over our responses. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of guarding our inner peace, noting that external negativity only affects us if we allow it to penetrate. This principle is vital when dealing with a chronic complainer. If you absorb their negativity, it becomes your own. What makes this behavior even more draining is their lack of proactivity. Chronic complainers rarely act to change their circumstances. Instead, they rely on others to listen, to validate their frustrations, and to shoulder their emotional burden. When you suggest practical solutions, they often reject them outright, clinging to their grievances as if they were old friends. It's as though they've grown comfortable in their dissatisfaction, unwilling to venture beyond it. Take another example. Imagine a friend who calls you daily, unloading every small inconvenience they've faced. At first, you listen with empathy, hoping to help them find clarity. But no matter how many solutions you offer, the conversation always circles back to the same problems. Over time, you start to feel like a sponge, soaking up their negativity until you're left emotionally drained. They don't mean to hurt you, but their inaction and unwillingness to change leave you feeling helpless and exhausted. Even more concerning is how their negativity can spread. A chronic complainer's mood often sets the tone for those around them. You might find yourself feeling irritable after spending time with them, even if you were in a good mood before. Their focus on everything wrong can shift your perspective, making you more likely to see problems than solutions. This emotional contagion can create an atmosphere of pessimism, where hope feels distant and frustration takes over. Dealing with a chronic complainer requires wisdom and strength. The first step is recognizing that their negativity is not yours to carry. Stoicism teaches us to maintain emotional boundaries and focus on what we can control, our thoughts and actions. When they begin to unload, listen briefly but without becoming deeply involved. Offer solutions if appropriate, but don't invest emotionally in their refusal to change. It's also important to limit your exposure. Politely but firmly set boundaries. For instance, if you're on a call and the conversation turns into an endless list of complaints, redirect it to a more positive or productive topic. If that doesn't work, it's okay to excuse yourself. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's essential for your well-being. Finally, remind yourself that their perspective doesn't have to shape yours. Practice gratitude daily to counterbalance the negativity they bring. Reflect on what's good in your life, no matter how small. As Epictetus advised, focus on what lies within your control and let go of the rest. By doing so, you not only shield your energy, but also create space for optimism and growth. In the end, dealing with chronic complainers isn't about changing them. It's about ensuring they don't change you. Protect your peace, guard your energy, and stay grounded in the Stoic wisdom that reminds us that our inner balance is ours to preserve. 2. The unwilling rescuer. Some people aren't content with carrying their burdens. They insist on handing them over to others. The unwilling rescuer thrives on dependency, leaning heavily on those around them for constant support, advice, and solutions. They are skilled at creating a sense of obligation, making it seem like helping them is not just kind but necessary. Yet no matter how much effort you put in, their struggles persist. The problem lies not with the circumstances they face, but with their unwillingness to take responsibility. I remember a close friend of mine who once confided in me about a toxic friendship. Her friend frequently sought her advice, whether it was about personal relationships, career decisions, or even minor daily inconveniences. At first, she was happy to help, feeling like she was making a difference. But over time, it became clear that her friend was using her as an emotional crutch. Whenever things didn't go as planned, instead of reflecting on their choices, they blamed her advice. My friend was left feeling both guilty and drained, trapped in an endless cycle of dependency and blame. This is the hallmark of the unwilling rescuer's behavior. They rely on others to take charge of their lives, while refusing to take responsibility for their actions. Stoicism teaches us that self-reliance is a cornerstone of inner peace. Epictetus reminds us that we are responsible for our minds and decisions. When someone repeatedly avoids accountability, they place a heavy emotional toll on those who try to help them. Another pattern that defines these individuals is their tendency to exaggerate. Small problems are magnified into urgent crises, demanding immediate attention. They use emotional manipulation to pull others into their struggles, painting dire consequences if help isn't provided. Their pleas feel genuine, yet their unwillingness to act independently creates a cycle where nothing ever improves. This can leave you feeling powerless and overwhelmed, as though you're constantly putting out fires that are never truly extinguished. Consider the case of a colleague who was known for escalating every issue. Whether it was a missed deadline or a disagreement with a coworker, they would portray it as a catastrophic event. Their cries for assistance often came with emotional appeals, making it hard to say no. But once help was offered, they'd find reasons why it wasn't enough, leaving the problem unresolved and the helper exhausted. Such behavior isn't malicious. Often it stems from fear or insecurity. However, the impact on those around them is profound. The more you engage, the more trapped you feel in their web of dependency. It's easy to lose sight of your boundaries and begin neglecting your peace and priorities. Dealing with an unwilling rescuer requires wisdom and firmness. Stoic philosophy offers invaluable guidance here. Marcus Aurelius often spoke of focusing on what lies within our control. You cannot make someone take responsibility for their life, but you can control how much of your energy you invest in their struggles. Establish clear boundaries. The next time they seek advice or assistance, resist the urge to step in immediately. Encourage them to reflect on their choices and explore solutions independently. When they attempt to manipulate with exaggerated urgency, remain calm. Respond with empathy, but don't allow yourself to be pulled into their drama. Acknowledge their feelings while gently redirecting the conversation toward actionable steps they can take on their own. This approach not only preserves your energy, but also empowers them to build resilience. It's also important to recognize when it's time to step back entirely. If someone continually resists change and drains your resources without making progress, it's okay to create distance. Protecting your mental and emotional well-being is not selfish, it's essential. As Seneca reminds us, our time and energy are finite. Spending them wisely is an act of self-respect and a gift to those who truly value our presence. Ultimately, dealing with an unwilling rescuer is about balance. Compassion is a virtue, but it must be paired with boundaries. By prioritizing your peace and encouraging others to take responsibility, you honor both yourself and the Stoic principles that guide you toward a life of strength and clarity. 3. The drama queen king. Some individuals thrive in chaos, not because they enjoy it, but because it gives them the attention they crave. These drama-driven personalities magnify the smallest incidents, weaving them into tales of crisis and calamity. They don't just experience life's challenges, they broadcast them in vivid color, ensuring that everyone around them gets pulled into their whirlwind. For the drama queen or king, the world must revolve around their emotions, their experiences, and their theatrics. However, the cost of their attention-seeking behavior often falls on the shoulders of those who care too much to look away. I once knew someone who exemplified this perfectly. A minor disagreement with a friend would spiral into a full-blown feud in their narrative. A simple delay at the coffee shop turned into a story about personal injustice, complete with exaggerated sighs and dramatic retellings. They had a way of making every small inconvenience feel monumental, dragging everyone around them into their web of overblown emotions. At first, it seemed harmless, even entertaining, but over time, their constant need to make everything about them became exhausting. Their stories weren't about sharing experiences, they were about demanding reactions, sympathy, and validation. I remember one night when this same person reached out late, claiming it was an emergency. They needed to vent about a perceived slight from a mutual acquaintance. The conversation was long, emotionally intense, and filled with exaggerated details that made the issue seem much bigger than it was. Yet the next day, everything seemed perfectly fine, as though none of it had ever mattered. What mattered to them wasn't resolving the issue. It was the emotional reaction they could elicit at the moment. The behavior of a drama queen or king often comes down to 3 key patterns: seeking attention, exaggerating situations, and manipulating emotions. They don't just tell stories, they craft performances. Their words are laced with hyperbole, and their actions are designed to draw gasps and sympathy. This constant dramatization creates unnecessary tension and stress for everyone involved. Imagine being on edge every time you're with someone, waiting for the next minor event to explode into their latest saga. It's draining, not because their problems are insurmountable, but because they pull you into a narrative that's far removed from reality. Their emotional manipulation is perhaps the most harmful aspect. They use guilt, tears, and even anger as tools to keep others engaged. If their needs aren't met, they pivot to playing the victim, ensuring that their audience feels both responsible and obligated. For those around them, this creates a cycle of frustration and guilt, a constant push and pull of trying to help someone who thrives on keeping the drama alive. Dealing with someone like this requires clarity and boundaries, 2 principles deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we cannot control the actions of others, only our response to them. When faced with drama, it's crucial to stay grounded. Resist the temptation to get swept up in their theatrics. Acknowledge their feelings, but don't allow yourself to be manipulated by them. For example, if a drama-driven friend tries to pull you into their exaggerated narrative, respond calmly and with neutrality. Instead of feeding into the crisis, offer a measured perspective. That sounds tough. How do you think you can handle it? This shifts the focus back to them and subtly discourages further dramatization. Setting boundaries is equally vital. If you find yourself repeatedly drained by someone's emotional outbursts, it's okay to limit your involvement. Politely but firmly communicate your limits. I care about you, but I can't always be the one to help you through these situations. By doing so, you protect your energy while encouraging them to take ownership of their actions. Lastly, it's important to recognize that not every problem requires your intervention. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control. The behavior of a drama queen or king is beyond your influence, but how you react is entirely within your power. By maintaining emotional detachment and refusing to feed into their theatrics, you preserve your inner peace and prevent their chaos from becoming your own. In the end, drama queens and kings thrive on attention, but they cannot steal what you refuse to give. Respond with patience, set firm boundaries, and choose to focus on the peace and clarity that Stoicism offers. 4. The emotional critic. Some people don't just drain your energy, they undermine it. Unlike the overt chaos of the drama seekers or the dependent pleas for help, emotional critics wield their negativity with precision. Their criticisms are often cloaked as honest feedback or genuine concern, yet their intent is clear: to focus on your weaknesses, exploit your insecurities, and erode your confidence. These individuals are skilled at finding cracks in your self-esteem and turning them into chasms. A friend of mine once shared his experience with someone like this. He struggled with self-consciousness about his weight, something he rarely talked about but always felt. One of his acquaintances noticed this vulnerability and began making casual jokes, often in public. At first, he tried to laugh it off, but the repeated remarks started to chip away at his self-worth. He felt inadequate, constantly replaying their words in his mind. But over time, something changed. Instead of letting their words define him, he decided to shift his perspective. He asked himself, "Am I happy with who I am?" The answer wasn't rooted in their criticism, but in his journey toward self-acceptance. The emotional critic thrives on finding your Achilles heel. They target your weaknesses with calculated precision, framing their words as helpful advice. Their aim isn't to assist, but to amplify your fears and doubts, leaving you feeling incapable or flawed. The Stoic principle of emotional detachment offers a powerful counter to this. Epictetus teaches that it's not the words of others, but our interpretation of them that gives them power. If you refuse to let their words define you, their influence dissolves. Another hallmark of the emotional critic is their relentless judgment. They critique everything: your choices, your actions, even your dreams, under the guise of being constructive. Yet their feedback rarely builds, it tears down. Their focus is always on flaws, not growth. Being in their presence feels like walking a tightrope, fearing the next fault they'll point out. Such negativity isn't just disheartening, it creates a toxic environment that saps your mental and emotional energy. Even more insidious is their ability to disguise their criticism as concern. They phrase their comments as though they're looking out for your best interests, claiming they're being realistic or honest. This tactic is manipulative, forcing you to question whether their words are valid or if you're overreacting. Their concern often comes with a dose of guilt, leaving you feeling as though rejecting their feedback makes you ungrateful. But this isn't genuine care. It's emotional control masked as kindness. One example comes to mind. A colleague who seemed to be a constant truth teller often offered unsolicited critiques about another coworker's work habits. He'd frame his comments with phrases like, "I'm just trying to help," but the underlying tone was dismissive and condescending. Instead of offering solutions or encouragement, he'd leave her doubting her abilities and questioning her worth in the team. It wasn't about improving her. It was about asserting his superiority. To deal with such individuals, clarity and emotional resilience are essential. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we cannot control what others say or do, but we can control our response. First, separate genuine feedback from harmful criticism. Ask yourself, does this comment help me grow, or does it simply tear me down? If it's the latter, recognize it as noise and let it pass without internalizing it. Setting boundaries is also crucial. If someone constantly undermines your confidence, address their behavior calmly but firmly. For instance, if a friend or coworker disguises their criticism as a concern, respond with, "I appreciate your input, but I feel confident in my choices." This not only acknowledges their comment, but also asserts your independence, cutting off their ability to control your emotions. Finally, strengthen your inner fortress. Stoicism teaches that true confidence comes from within, not from external validation. The more secure you are in your values and worth, the less vulnerable you become to external attacks. Remind yourself that no one's opinion defines your identity unless you allow it to. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Dealing with emotional criticism requires patience and self-awareness. By refusing to let their words dictate your worth and reinforcing your emotional boundaries, you reclaim your energy and peace of mind. Their words may be sharp, but their power fades when you refuse to give them weight. 5. The know-it-all. Some people possess an aura of superiority that can quietly erode your confidence and energy. These individuals believe they hold unparalleled knowledge, dismissing others' ideas with a casual wave of the hand. Their words are not just statements, they are proclamations, designed to overshadow and dominate. Engaging with a know-it-all can feel like standing in a room filled with intellectual smog, where your ideas are suffocated under the weight of their certainty. During my first year at university, I was assigned to a random group for a foundational course. The group leader, a senior student, took charge immediately. At first, his confidence seemed reassuring, but it soon became clear that his demeanor was less about collaboration and more about control. Every discussion was steered back to his opinions. He dismissed suggestions without thought, interrupting others mid-sentence. When challenged, his tone sharpened, and he relied on manipulative reasoning to cement his point. What could have been an enriching team experience became stifling, leaving the rest of us feeling insignificant and undervalued. This behavior stems from a need to assert dominance in conversations. Know-it-alls thrive on the belief that they are always right, which feeds their ego and gives them a sense of control. However, Stoicism teaches that wisdom is not about asserting superiority, but embracing humility. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, it is impossible to learn what you think you already know. These individuals rob themselves of growth by refusing to listen, but their attitude also creates a toxic dynamic that drains the energy of those around them. A key characteristic of know-it-alls is their disregard for the opinions of others. They view alternative perspectives as threats rather than opportunities for discussion. This lack of respect often manifests as condescension, making others feel small or unimportant. Imagine being in a meeting where your ideas are repeatedly dismissed without consideration, your voice overshadowed by someone who dominates the conversation. Over time, this diminishes self-confidence and fosters a culture of intellectual intimidation. Another hallmark of know-it-alls is their relentless need to be right. They approach every interaction as a battle to win, rather than a dialogue to understand. When faced with challenges to their perspective, they become defensive, twisting facts or employing manipulative arguments to maintain their stance. This behavior doesn't just strain conversations, it creates an environment of constant tension where genuine collaboration is impossible. In the university group, our know-it-all leader constantly corrected others, even on minor details. One teammate suggested a creative approach to our project, only to be immediately shut down with a dismissive, "That won't work, and here's why." No alternatives were proposed, just an assertion of his superior reasoning. The team grew quiet, unwilling to contribute further, knowing their efforts would be undermined. This kind of intellectual domination left us frustrated, disengaged, and questioning our capabilities. Dealing with a know-it-all requires a blend of patience, detachment, and firm boundaries, principles deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy. Epictetus advises us to focus on what we can control, our reactions, rather than the behavior of others. When engaging with someone who dismisses your ideas, resist the urge to argue. Instead, present your perspective calmly and assertively. For instance, you might say, "I see your point, but I believe there's another way to approach this." This shifts the dynamic, allowing you to stand your ground without escalating tension. It's also essential to recognize when their behavior begins to affect your well-being. If a know-it-all consistently undermines your confidence, consider limiting your interactions or creating boundaries. Politely but firmly state, "I appreciate your input, but I'd like to explore this idea further before dismissing it." This communicates your value without directly confronting their ego. Finally, protect your inner peace by reframing the situation through a Stoic lens. Know-it-alls are often driven by insecurity, masking their fears with arrogance. Understanding this can help you detach emotionally from their behavior, allowing you to respond with patience rather than frustration. Remember, their need to dominate conversations reflects their struggles, not their worth. In a world where diverse perspectives fuel progress, humility is a strength, not a weakness. By asserting your ideas, setting boundaries, and maintaining emotional resilience, you not only navigate interactions with know-it-alls, but also preserve your energy for meaningful connections. Stoicism teaches us that true wisdom lies in understanding, not in dominating, and in this understanding, we find peace. 6. The overly energetic transmitter. There's a unique type of energy drainer who doesn't rely on negativity or criticism, but overwhelms you with relentless enthusiasm and intensity. While their intentions may be harmless, their actions often leave those around them feeling exhausted. They seem unaware of the need for balance, pushing their energy onto others without recognizing when someone needs space or calm. Their presence can turn a peaceful moment into a whirlwind, leaving you searching for escape. A close friend once shared her story about a colleague who embodied this exact energy. After a long day at work, she was ready to go home and unwind. Yet, her overly enthusiastic coworker had other plans. She'd suggest a spontaneous outing to a distant shopping mall or propose high-energy activities with little regard for the exhaustion of those around her. My friend, reluctant to decline, often found herself reluctantly swept along, only to feel even more drained by the end of the night. This kind of behavior stems from an inability to gauge or respect the emotional and physical needs of others. Stoic philosophy teaches us the value of balance, both in action and in thought. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your judgment of them. In the case of overly energetic individuals, their actions are not inherently malicious. However, if we fail to set boundaries, their intensity can intrude upon our well-being. One characteristic of such individuals is their excessive enthusiasm. They speak quickly, brimming with excitement, and seem incapable of pausing or slowing down. While their passion can initially be engaging, it soon becomes overwhelming. Imagine being in a conversation where the other person's excitement escalates with each word, leaving no room for your thoughts or input. It's not that they don't care, it's that their energy consumes the space, overshadowing everything else. Another trait is their disregard for personal boundaries. They might stand too close, frequently touch others, or ignore subtle cues of discomfort. Their actions often feel intrusive, creating a sense of suffocation. For example, you might step back to create space, but they move closer, oblivious to the signals you're sending. Over time, this behavior can lead to feelings of frustration and even avoidance, as the lack of respect for personal space takes a toll. Returning to my friend's story, she realized that her colleague's energy wasn't just about excitement. It was about seeking validation through others' participation. The invitations to post-work activities weren't merely social gestures. They were a way for her coworker to maintain her momentum by drawing others into her whirlwind. This realization helped my friend understand the importance of setting boundaries without feeling guilty. To manage relationships with overly energetic individuals, begin by asserting your own needs. Epictetus reminds us that we must focus on what lies within our control. When faced with someone who insists on constant activity or proximity, calmly but firmly express your preferences. For instance, if invited to an outing after work, you can say, I appreciate the invite, but I need some time to rest tonight. This response acknowledges their gesture while protecting your energy. In situations where their enthusiasm dominates conversations, gently redirect the focus. You might say, "I'd love to hear more about this, but I'd also like to share something I've been working on." This not only creates balance, but also subtly signals the need for mutual exchange rather than a one-sided dialogue. It's also essential to recognize that their behavior is often unintentional. By practicing emotional detachment, a core Stoic principle, you can avoid taking their intensity personally. Instead of becoming frustrated, remind yourself that their actions stem from their perspective, not a deliberate disregard for your needs. This mindset allows you to respond with patience and understanding rather than irritation. Lastly, create physical and emotional boundaries when needed. If their proximity feels intrusive, step back and maintain your space. If their energy becomes overwhelming, find moments of solitude to recharge. As Marcus Aurelius advises, nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his soul. Take time to retreat inward, grounding yourself in your sense of peace. Interacting with overly energetic individuals doesn't have to leave you drained. By asserting your needs, maintaining boundaries, and embracing a Stoic perspective, you can preserve your energy while navigating these relationships with grace and composure. Their enthusiasm, while overwhelming, need not disrupt your inner balance. Instead, let your calm presence become a grounding force, both for yourself and for those around you. As we journey through life, the people around us profoundly shape our energy, mindset, and peace of mind. From the chronic complainer to the overly energetic transmitter, each personality brings its unique challenges. Yet, these interactions also present opportunities for growth, self-reflection, and mastery of our emotions. The lessons rooted in Stoic philosophy remind us that while we cannot control the behavior of others, we can control how we respond. When faced with draining individuals, the wisdom of Stoicism encourages us to establish boundaries that protect our inner peace. By maintaining clarity in our thoughts, staying grounded in our values, and fostering emotional resilience, we ensure that our energy is reserved for what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Let this principle guide you as you navigate these challenging relationships. Begin today by identifying situations where your energy feels depleted. Reflect on how you can apply these lessons in your daily life, whether it's asserting boundaries, practicing detachment, or redirecting conversations with grace. Remember, building this skill is not a one-time event, but a continuous practice. Over time, you'll notice your capacity for calm and focus growing stronger, allowing you to maintain balance even in the face of negativity. We'd love to hear your stories. Have you encountered people who drained your energy, and how did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below, not only to inspire others, but to foster a community where we learn and grow together. Let these principles of Stoicism become your compass, helping you cultivate inner peace and resilience. With consistent practice, you'll find yourself living a life of greater clarity, purpose, and unshakable strength.